If you've been looking at any media recently regarding the New York Yankees, you probably think that they aren't in a really good position right now. You might even think that they are down with the A's and Royals and are one of the worst teams in the league. As of recording this though, the Yankees are 52-47, which is not that bad in a vacuum, but Yankees fans were expecting a lot better. The fans have been spoiled with 6 straight playoff berths, and they haven't had a losing record since 1992. Try being a fan of the Pirates, who haven't had a winning season from 1992 up until 2012. The Yankees are currently 8 games back from the Orioles for the AL East lead and are just 2.5 games back of the wildcard spot. There are still 63 games to go. There's a lot more time to close the gap. Even saying these basic numbers might skew your view on the Yankees towards the positive side, but we are going to dive into the numbers and you will see why this team is actually ready to break out in the second half. Let's start off by looking at some of these basic team stats, things like batting average, OPS, ERA, strikeouts, walks, things like that. Offensively, it's pretty clear that the Yankees don't hit for contact or get on base all that well. They are second to last in the league in average, only in front of the Oakland Athletics. They make up for that lack of contact with some pretty good power numbers, including the 5th most home runs and the 16th best slugging percentage. This combination of poor contact and good power has resulted them in scoring 4.36 runs per game, which is good for 19th in the league. This is not the best number, but it can get you into the playoffs as long as you have good pitching, which they have gotten so far. They are 8th in the league in ERA with 3.89 and are 11th in ERA+. The strikeout numbers are solid, but the walks tend to be the biggest problem with this pitching staff. When looking into these basic stats, you would probably say this is a good team that probably has a chance to make the playoffs, which is right where the Yankees are. But let's go a little deeper. We have this set of stats right here, but let's add to them by putting in some more advanced numbers. On the offensive side, we have OPS plus and WRC plus. OPS plus just takes OPS, alters a little bit based on the park that is being played at, and gives you a number where 100 is league average. This means the Yankees are a below average hitting team in terms of OPS. WRC plus is very similar to OPS plus, but each outcome is weighted slightly differently. Both of these show that the Yankees are in the bottom third of offensive production, and if you want to make the playoffs, that is going to make it tough. On the pitching side, we have FIP and XFIP. FIP stands for Fielding Independent Pitching, which takes defense out of the equation. It only uses home runs given up, walks, hit by pitches, and strikeouts. XFIP doesn't use home runs, but uses the home run to fly ball rate from the pitchers, which might get rid of any extra bad luck. If you know anything about FIP, you might be thinking that the Yankees pitching staff hasn't been getting pretty lucky. Their ERA is much lower than their FIP, so it's a miracle that they're actually even limiting runs this way. But that is not entirely true. If you look at their defensive efficiency, they rank 4th. FIP, or Fielding Independent Pitching, doesn't take into account defense or fielding. So if this team has a good defense, the FIP is expected to be higher than the ERA. The Yankees' best strength this year so far has been their defense, and it has helped their pitching staff out a lot and is a big reason why they are top 10 in the league in ERA. Baseball Savant recently released a new defensive metric called Fielding Run Value, which allows us to compare all defenders at every position on the field. For infielders, it takes into account range using outs above average. For outfielders, it takes into account range and arm. And for catchers, it takes into account blocking, framing, and throwing. It gives us a number for each player, and that shows us how many runs they are worth over or above average on defense. Looking at the Yankees chart, we can see the team is led by Harrison Bader, and he comes in as the 3rd best center fielder in the entire league, which is great, especially because it is one of the most important defensive positions on the field, along with catcher and shortstop. In those positions, the Yankees are also strong, with Anthony Volpe and Jose Trevino. Now, Trevino is out for the rest of the year with a wrist injury, but filling in for him is Ben Rortvedt and Kyle Higashioka. Rortvedt put up 3 fielding run value in 2021 in just 250 innings, and Higashioka has been bad defensively this year, but last year he was well above average. Just for reference, here are some other teams' charts like the A's or Nationals, or some better defensive teams like the Rays and Brewers. Now that we've talked about some of the lesser-known strengths of the Yankees, let's talk about their weaknesses. We already established that the Yankees struggle to make contact and get on base often. A lot of that has to do with their approach at the plate, but they also have been unlucky. It's hard to quantify how unlucky a team has been, but we have a pretty good way to estimate it using expected stats. I talked about these in my video about Luis Arraez hitting 400, and so far those predictions using the expected stats look correct. Expected stats like expected batting average and expected slugging percentage only care about the quality of contact. It takes the exit velocity, launch angle, and sprint speed. Using these three things, we can predict how the batted ball would be expected to turn out. So, what do they say about the Yankees as a team? Well, looking back at the team batting average for the Yankees, it stands at .229, which is pretty bad and is second to last in the league. Their expected batting average, however, is .244, which is good for 18th in the league. This means that the difference between their batting average and what is expected to be at is negative .015. That number is the second lowest in the entire league. Things are similar when you look at their expected slugging percentage. The Yankees have a slugging percentage of .405 and have an expected slugging percentage of .428. While the .405 number is 16th in the league, the expected number is all the way up at number 6, along with teams like the Braves, Dodgers, and Rangers. That gives them a difference of negative .023, which is the fourth lowest in the entire league. To put it in short, the Yankees are getting very unlucky. They have the 5th highest average exit velocity as a team and have the 5th most barrels per plate appearance as a team. They hit the ball hard and make quality contact with the best teams in the league, but sometimes they hit it right at someone or to the wrong part of the ballpark. This long flyout from Aaron Judge had an expected batting average of over .970 and an expected slugging percentage of .3.814. That means that balls hit with this exit velocity and launch angle are extra base hits and mostly home runs almost all the time, but this time it was an out. And this 402-foot flyout from Higashioka had an expected batting average of .490 and an expected slugging percentage of .3.764. In other ballparks or in other areas of this ballpark, the ball would have been long gone for a home run, but not in this instance. The Yankees have their fair share of these kinds of outs through the 2023 season so far, and while they may have a pretty low batting average so far for this year, it most likely will improve from now till the end of the season. And these stats show that their biggest weakness may not be all that bad after all. Finally, there is one more thing that we have to mention, and that is level 4. This is probably the most obvious thing of all time, but Aaron Judge was paid $40 million a year for a reason, unlike Anthony Rendon. He is by far the best player on the Yankees and probably the best hitter in the league, and as you may have guessed, he is pretty important to the Yankees' success. Just take a look at his stats from before he got injured. He was having another MVP-type season and was looking like the only player to challenge Ohtani for the award again. Putting up a 2.8 F WAR in just 49 games means he was on pace for about 8 to 9 WAR if he played 150 games. But since his toe injury, the Yankees have struggled without him, as expected. They were playing pretty well with Judge, having a respectable .576 winning percentage. Without him, though, they are only winning 45% of the games that they have played. That number is not going to cut it if the team wants to make the playoffs. But Judge is returning sooner rather than later, as he faced live pitching for the first time on July 23rd, meaning his return is in the near future, meaning that the Yankees could be getting back to winning baseball. Also in the near future is the trade deadline, where the Yankees should be pretty active in. Since Ohtani is off the market for now, the first thing that they should look at is the catcher position. With Trevino going down and Higashioka and Rortvedt left, there is definitely room for improvement. Available options include Yan Gomes and Yasmani Grandal, two veterans who are hitting both around league average and would provide some much-needed offense from the catcher position. They shouldn't take too much to get, as the Cubs and White Sox really have no reason to keep them around. Another hole in their lineup has been corner infield and corner outfield. The corpses of Donaldson and LeMahieu have nothing left in the tank, and Anthony Rizzo has been struggling. Billy McKinney has been hot, but how long will that last? Every other player they've trotted out there at corner outfield since Judge got hurt just hasn't been able to do much at the plate. One candidate to trade for that obviously sticks out to me is Cody Bellinger. Having a resurgence of sorts and his contract ending after this year means the Cubs are bound to sell him while he's hot. He can slide into all three outfield spots as well as play first base. He may have a high demand amongst other clubs, so his price could be too high for the Yankees' liking. If they can't get Bellinger, another player having a breakout season on a bad team is Brent Rooker. He can play left field and first base while providing a big bat in the lineup. While he may not be sound defensively in the outfield, Harrison Bader and Aaron Judge alongside him can probably make up for what is lost. Pitching-wise, the Yankees are in a much better spot. If Rodon can figure it out, the rotation of Cole, Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Domingo Germán, and Luis Severino doesn't sound too bad. They may want to add another arm considering Severino hasn't been all too reliable in the past decade, but it's not as important. They probably won't go after a top arm like Giolito or Scherzer, but could add in someone like Jack Flaherty or Paul Blackburn, two veterans that have been around and could provide solid innings at the back end of this rotation. Every contender could always use more pitching, and that goes for the Yankees, not just in the rotation, but also in the bullpen. The bullpen has been one huge strength for the Yankees so far, led by closer Clay Holmes, relievers Michael King, Wandy Peralta, Tommy Kahnle, as well as many others who have had success this year. They could always add to it, as you can't get enough pitching, but it's not a huge need. If the right moves are made at the deadline, Judge comes back healthy, and things start going their way, or things start going as expected, the Yankees very well can find themselves in the playoffs by the end of the year. Some Yankees fans may be acting as if the world is falling apart, but don't worry, it could be a whole lot worse.